Hi, welcome back to Data Exposed. I'm Anna Hoffman, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I wanted to take a few minutes and share with you all the things that the Microsoft SQL team has been doing in 2026. And to no surprise to anybody, it's a lot of things. So we're going to cover everything from SQL Server to Azure SQL to SQL Database and Fabric, and of course, all the tools and experiences you know and are loving or learning to love or continuing to give us feedback so that they're really everything that you need. So with that, I want to go ahead and get right started. As always, or it's been a while since I've been doing this, but there is a blog where you can get all of these updates at aka.ms/news update 2026. And I use this aka. I could actually go all the way back to 2021. So I've been doing this for quite a while if you want to track all the things the SQL team's been up to. But primarily today, I wanted to talk about what we've done since SQLCon. So since March, the big conference that we did here, actually, where I live in Atlanta, Georgia, all of the updates since then. But if you're joining and you're like, oh, wait, I missed those updates too, don't worry. I link from the blog to a video that I did with Bob and Priya, and you can get the same exact view of all of the things that we've been doing. And yeah, as always, the team is definitely busy listening to the things that you say that you need and delivering on those things. So definitely check this out if you're not up to date with that. The other thing that I'll say is if you want details on build, I also released a blog around the build timeframe, but it's all linked from here. So you just need that one URL, I'll put it down below, to get everything you need. Okay, so let's start going through everything, and you'll see I pulled a bunch of different things to show you what's going on, some of the highlights that I wanted to call out. Okay, so first, if we look across Azure SQL and SQLDB and Fabric, remember, it's all the same engine. It's all Microsoft SQL, but we ship to the cloud much more frequently than we ship to Box, as you all are very familiar. Some of the things that we shipped include regex support for large object binary or LOB types. I had to think about what that stood for. But this also landed in SQL Server CU5. So if you want to take advantage of this, you can upgrade to the latest CU. On the security front, there's a couple things in here down for Azure SQL Database as well as across the suite. So I wanted to just hop over here and show you I'm not a security expert, but we're doing a lot in this space. We're helping you move away from SQL Auth. If you're using SQL Auth today, please consider more secure alternatives. A fun fact is here at Microsoft, we're not allowed to use SQL Auth or passwords for anything. So you can't even kind of get started with that. As far as some of the things that we're doing, we introduced TDE and Azure SQL Database. Of course, it's been along for a long time, but with AES key support. So I had to do some research and learn more about this, and I still don't fully understand it. However, like we are in line with the NSA's CNSA 2.0 recommendations, and we're just being proactive and making sure you have the most secure database on the planet to work with. So definitely check this out. You don't need to be a security expert, but you do need to think about security, especially in the land of mythos and AI and all these hackers. Okay. The other thing while I'm here on the security front is we have introduced Regex-powered dynamic data masking. This is rolling out now. That's why it says preview coming soon. But this is helping you get a little more granular and a little more specific and take advantage of tools like regular expressions. All right, so moving back here, we talked about some of these things. Let's see. This was a big one to add this AI generate embeddings and external model object support. So this is just making it easier for you to develop your RAG applications with Azure SQL. Let's see, change event streaming. This has been available in public preview for hyperscale and SQL managed instance. This is really exciting one. Actually, we have an episode with the PM for this coming out in a couple weeks, so stay tuned for that. And the preview for SQL and Fabric's coming soon. Local time zone support. Oh man, this has been one that people have been asking for a while, and it makes sense. So this is in the process of being rolled out very soon. So you should be able to stay tuned for some cool announcements there. Did you know you were going to get a little bit of a roadmap mixed in with the what's new? Okay, I talked about these some of these key things. If your security teams are interested or you're interested, definitely you can learn more at the links. We also announced really, really, really large vCore series options for hyperscale. So if you are needing that scale, hyperscale is a great option for you. But of course, it's not just for really massive scale databases, despite the name. It's also for really small, getting started and kind of grow with you. Okay. And SQL Database and Fabric, you all know, very near and dear to my heart. We finally released some things that the community's been asking for us for a while. But one of those things, let's see, is a migration assistant. So now you can come into the Fabric workspace, hit the migrate button, pick where you want to migrate to. If you want to migrate to SQL Database in Fabric, you can do that. We'll walk you through bringing in a DAC pack and then helping getting all set up, and then just kind of point you to a copy job to move data over. But of course, you can do it another way. So this was an exciting one because we get a ton of questions about this. So check it out and let us know what you think. The other big announcements was Fabric apps. Or you might have heard of Rayfin or Fabric apps, but essentially this is a backend as a service. And as part of this, you get a SQL database. Now, I'm not sure if everyone has gotten the chance, let me make this a little bigger, to read about Fabric apps or Rayfin or the way it works. But essentially, oh man, let's see, here it is. I wrote a blog because I've been using GitHub and Copilot and VS Code, of course, all the time, especially in this AI era. And one of the things that's coming up is this idea of shareable sites. Now, what I love about using Rayfin or Fabric apps, they're the same thing. For this is that it's within the bounds of your enterprise controls. It's scoped to that workspace that you're in with the access and everything around that. And you can set up the database. Actually, you don't even have to set up the database. It just deploys the database for you. So if you're working in this pattern of using shareable sites, I think that this is a great way to do it. So I'd love your thoughts on if you think Rayfin is a good way to do it. This is an example I built, and I actually put the GitHub repo out there. But basically, I was very easily able to build an app that had data from the workspace and also right back into the database. So for example, here I was able to comment. So now you can start adding interactivity on these shareable sites. You only have to share one link and it's always up to date. So again, I love people's thoughts on what they think of Rayfin, what they're going to use it for, and that sort of thing. Okay, moving to SQL Server, we've had a couple cumulative updates that have landed, but of course the security one you're going to want to check out. But I wanted to talk about a few things from CU5. So if you head over to the blog, you can get information about the CU. But specifically what I wanted to talk about is a couple of the improvements and fixes. These are not like small. These are pretty exciting, and I think they're going to be helpful. One, this is adding a max lock manager cache memory percentage configuration for you. So you make sure that this doesn't get out of control. There's a lot more you can read about this. But essentially, we're helping you to manage the memory that's used by a lock and then help you bring that back down. So basically, we're recommending you set it at 20, but if you want to go back up to 60, then we're giving you that kind of as a backwards compatibility. As far as I'm understanding of it, if you understand it differently, I would love your help in learning myself. The other couple things that came out here, there's a couple of vulnerabilities, again, from a security perspective, you want to check it out. If you're using these things, looks like some interesting improvement I added to my notes to go learn more about this around CPU starvation. So definitely check this one out if you're using in-memory OLTP. Also, the new full text index, I guess, I don't know how new it is, but the full text index version 2, now you can set this using a database scope configuration. This one's definitely worth checking out. And I think if you move to SQL Server 2025, this would potentially be a breaking change. So something to look into and see how we're making it easier for you to both enable it, test it, and get it all configured. And then some additional settings for change feed parameters were there. In addition to this, with CU5, not CU5, CU1, there was this enhancement for contained availability groups, especially if you're using Linux. So especially if you're using this, you're definitely going to read more about this. It would also work for SQL Server in Windows if you're using contained AGs. So just something to check about, because now you can create or restore databases directly through the listener without having to connect to the physical instance. So I'm not going to go through all those details here, but this was something that a lot of folks were asking for. Okay. Let's see, what else did I have in here? I'm hopping around a bit, so I appreciate your patience. Okay, let's talk about tools. Okay, so before I go through that tools, I wanted to show you some of the things that came out around build. Of course, the MSSQL extension for VS Code has grown wildly popular, and some of the latest things we announced were being able to provision a free Azure SQL database from the extension in VS Code. We also, in the SSMS front, announced a lot of things, including agent mode in SSMS. So there's a lot of things to look into here. I'll talk to you a little bit more in a minute about how to learn more about those things. But along with this, some of the things that have gotten a lot of excitement lately are SQL Formatter and Schema Compare. These are things folks have been asking for probably years, maybe a decade, but it's very exciting. We're finally landing some of these things, and we'd love your feedback and your participation in making it better and evolving that. We also recently shipped a What's New page. If you're connected with me on LinkedIn, then you saw I've been exploring what else we should put or think about putting in the What's New page to help you learn what's going on. We talked about a lot of these things, so let me just hop back to the main blog. Okay, a couple things that happened prior to this release include just a lot of enhancements are happening, obviously, in the SQL project space and SSMS. For those of you who haven't been staying up to date, which is totally understandable with everything going on, we announced SQL projects or database DevOps in SSMS back in March, and Drew and the team have been working really hard to bring more functionality there, make it more integrated into your SSMS workloads. And Drew and I actually just released an episode on this last week, how you can look at Azure DevOps pipelines as you expand from SSMS. In an earlier version, we released a really new, interesting experience for migrating and assessing your migration and your upgrades all in one place, whether it's Arc enabled or completely disconnected. So check that out. I'd love to get feedback on how that's going and where you need help once you decide you need to upgrade or migrate. Let's see. Oh, SQL Notebooks. This was a huge one. I've been seeing a lot of buzz about this on the internet. People are really excited that we were able to bring this back, myself included. Talked about Azure SQL DB provisioning. These experiences are really well integrated GitHub Copilot plus UI, UX experiences. So definitely check those out. It makes your life a lot easier to visualize your schemas and update or create with GitHub Copilot. A ton of things in here that landed also to help you transition if you're transitioning from Azure Data Studio, which is officially deprecated as of January or February, to help you switch over, including bringing your settings and connections over. Of course, this was a large one, introducing the public preview of the SQL MCP server. So definitely check this one out. And I also reference a blog. This one. Jerry's done a great job blogging about different ways you might deploy your SQL MCP server or use your SQL MCP server. So if you're not following along at the Azure SQL Dev Corner, definitely recommend that too. Drivers. Wow, the drivers team has just been doing so much. It's really exciting. I was trying to pick just a few things to show you all. The one I wanted to pick was this support for Apache Arrow. This is an interesting scenario because basically if you're working with any of these things and you need to get data out of SQL Server to do some sort of analysis and then whatever it is that you're doing, the new Arrow Fetch API really helps you do this and helps you hand off and has a ton of improvements from a performance perspective. I thought this was also a interesting scenario too, because we're taking contributions from the community. So super cool to see that and know that, if there's something that you want in some of these drivers, you can open an issue or a PR, and we're definitely looking at those things. Definitely not going to cover all the drivers, fixes and updates, but a lot of things here, especially on performance. You'll see some things around bulk copy in the Python one. Always nice to see us expanding our support in Django. And of course, PHP is back. And we're back hopefully on the nice list with all of the PHP folks, which is a lot. Okay, then at the very end, we're nearing the end. I included just a selection of blogs. There's a ton of blogs that come out throughout the months from the team. So there's a couple blogs you want to follow based on what it is that are your interests. But these were the couple that I thought were interesting and we're checking out. We mentioned security, but especially when it comes to the AI world, both building AI applications, whether it's taking advantage of RAG or some other aspect of AI using Microsoft Foundry, et cetera, definitely you want to consider, do you have a database that's secure? And are you setting everything up so that you can have the most secure setup and configuration and following the principles of least privilege? Basically, you want to avoid, and I know we've talked about on the show before, you want to avoid becoming a headline of like, you're the guy or girl or gal who dropped databases or something like that. Okay. The last thing is the SQL AI developer cert. Definitely, this is a new cert called DP800. We're trying to evolve together so that we can bring you along with us on this journey of AI, developing apps, working with the latest capabilities in SQL. Okay, last thing, I said last thing already, but last thing is I wanted to give a shout out to our YouTube channel. Thanks for everybody who has followed Data Exposed, is watching this video, has watched this video up to this point in the episode. But I just wanted to say there's a lot more to what we're doing on YouTube apart from Data Exposed. So if you come in here, of course, you'll see Data Exposed. You also see like special things that we do with the leaderships at events. You'll also see series dedicated to things like SQL Server 2025, SQLDB and Fabric, the MSSQL extension for VS Code. People love this. We're getting a ton of views for us on that. Aaron Stellato just released a bunch of episodes about GitHub Copilot, including agent mode. So you want to check that out. We have a Budget Bites series. This is an awesome series that helps you figure out and learn how to build an AI app for under $25. And then, of course, if you want to scale it, things like that. There are some series here that maybe you miss. Saquon started some series on SQLDB and Fabric. There's a whole series if you're just getting started with T-SQL with Marisa and Buck. We have the Azure SQL for Beginners, which while it was done several years ago, still is pretty relevant. Bob and I were just chatting about how a lot of the things here still stand true about the principles of Azure SQL and all the different offerings. Bob did a series on performance troubleshooting. There's some series on managed instance. There's, of course, our MVP edition. We release one MVP the last Tuesday of every month. So ton of stuff in here if you want to stay up to date, if you want to watch more, dive deeper into what's going on. And then, of course, SQLCon Barcelona is coming back up in September. I'll be there. A lot of folks from the team will be there. And we're just really excited about being able to do that. So with that being said, I've come to the end of my news updates for 2026 so far. Again, this link, aka.ms/news update 2026, you can visit it whenever you want if you want to see what's going on, what the latest news is, or get any of the references that I talked about today. As this was a new format and it was just kind of me clicking around and rambling on and on and on, like I would love your feedback in the comments or likes, or contact me on LinkedIn or X or wherever you can find me. Is this sort of thing something you want to see? Let us know. And like I said, leave us a like or a comment, and we hope to see you next time on Data Exposed.